Have you ever wanted something so much that it almost hurt to think about it? You plan every step, imagine how it will feel, picture your new life, your new self. And then, when the moment comes to act, fear freezes you. One thought whispers, "What if I fail?" And everything stops. If you felt that, you're not alone. You are part of a silent epidemic, people paralyzed by fear. Fear of starting something new, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of loss. We live in a time where comfort has become the cage, and courage feels like a forgotten language. But what if I told you that more than 400 years ago a man found the cure? His name was Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, undefeated in over 60 duels, a master of the sword and of the mind. Yet, in his final days, he wrote not about combat, but about conquering the one enemy every person faces daily: fear itself. He called this final teaching Dokkodo, the path of walking alone. 21 rules for living without fear, attachment, or illusion. They are not about fighting others, they are about mastering yourself. Because as Musashi discovered, fear does not need to be destroyed, it needs to be understood. Imagine what your life would look like if fear lost its grip on you. If you could act boldly without waiting for perfect timing or approval. If you could walk through uncertainty with stillness and strength. Musashi's code is the key. Modern neuroscience confirms what he intuited centuries ago: that fear is not a flaw. It is an ancient program built for survival. It once kept our ancestors alive, but today, it traps us in invisible cages. We no longer fear tigers. We fear opinions, change, and failure. Our brains don't know the difference. Musashi realized this without ever seeing a brain scan. His first rule says, "Do not go against the way of humanity." It means, stop fighting what you are. Fear is natural, it's energy. But that energy must be directed, not obeyed. Then comes his second rule: do not seek pleasure for its own sake. This one destroys modern thinking. Pleasure and comfort, when pursued endlessly, make the mind weak. They sharpen fear because they dull resilience. The man addicted to ease becomes terrified of effort. The warrior embraces discomfort as part of the path. That's how strength is born. His third rule is a revelation: do not rely on partial feelings. Musashi knew that emotion without awareness leads to paralysis. How many times have you obeyed the trembling voice of your own anxiety, the illusion of danger when no real danger existed? Most of your fears are shadows of thought, not facts. They live in imagination, not reality. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. That was his fourth rule. Ego feeds fear. The more you make everything about yourself, the more fragile you become. When you zoom out, when you see life as larger than your pride, the small fears lose their meaning. His fifth rule seems impossible at first: have no desires throughout your life. But he didn't mean to live without purpose. He meant to act without attachment. Desire binds you to outcome, and when you cling to outcome, fear always wins. Musashi teaches, pursue goals with full heart, but release the need to control how they unfold. Freedom begins where attachment ends. The sixth rule: do not regret what you have done. Regret is fear looking backward. It chains you to the past and makes you afraid to act again. Musashi's remedy is simple: act with clarity, accept with dignity, and move forward with no backward glance. The seventh: never be envious of others. Envy is fear disguised as comparison, the fear of not being enough. You scroll through the highlight reels of other lives and measure your worth by illusions. Musashi would have laughed. The path of mastery is walked in silence, not in competition. The only person to surpass is the one you were yesterday. His eighth rule: do not be saddened by separation. Everything you love will one day change form. People leave, situations end, life shifts. When you cling to permanence, you invite suffering. When you accept impermanence, you find peace. Musashi understood what Zen masters taught. Attachment is the root of fear, and impermanence is its liberation. The modern world confirms his wisdom. A Stanford neuroscientist found that the brain reacts to imagined fear exactly as it does to real fear. To your nervous system, a bad memory and a bad moment are the same. Musashi's later rules dismantle this illusion completely. Have no resentment or grievances against yourself or others. Resentment keeps the mind trapped in constant battle. It feeds the illusion of threat. True warriors forgive quickly, not out of weakness, but to clear the path for focus. Do not be guided by feelings of lust or love. Musashi did not mean to reject emotion. He meant never become enslaved by it. The moment your peace depends on someone else's presence or opinion, you have given away your sword. In all things, have no preferences. This rule is the root of mental freedom. Expectation is a contract you sign with disappointment. The more rigid your idea of how things should be, the more fear you feel when they are not. Flow with life, and fear loses its grip. Do not covet a private residence. Again, this isn't about rejecting shelter. It's about not letting possessions own your peace. Every attachment creates a doorway for fear to enter. The man who needs little cannot be threatened by loss. Do not seek delicious flavors. Musashi meant, beware of addiction to pleasure in any form. The more you depend on stimulation, the weaker your inner stillness becomes. Simplicity is power. Do not possess old objects for amusement. Do not desire more than necessary. Together, these rules teach that every excess is a vulnerability. The fewer things you need to feel whole, the freer you are from fear's reach. Then he writes, do not act according to ancient customs. It means stop living by expectations that no longer serve you. Most people fear judgment because they are still trying to fit into molds built by others long dead. Musashi tells you, burn the mold. Walk your own path. Do not collect weapons beyond their use. For the modern age, this means stop hoarding preparation as a substitute for action. Some people collect knowledge, certifications, or plans, but never move. Fear disguises itself as perfectionism. Musashi's sword was sharp because it was used, not studied. Then comes one of his most powerful truths. On the way, death is not to be feared. Acceptance of death is the birth of life. When you realize your time is finite, fear loses its authority. You stop waiting. You start living. Do not seek property for old age. He's not preaching recklessness. He's warning against obsession. The man who sacrifices his present for a future that may never arrive dies twice, once in anxiety and once in regret. Respect the gods, but do not rely on their help. This is not about denying faith. It's about personal responsibility. Do not hand your life over to fate and call it surrender. Faith without action is fear pretending to be devotion. And finally, his last rule. You may abandon your body, but you must preserve your honor. It means your body, your possessions, your status, all can be lost. But your integrity, your principles, your word, those are eternal. A fearless life is one lived in alignment with truth no matter the cost. Musashi's wisdom is not about becoming fearless. It's about acting despite fear. Fear will always exist, but once you see it clearly, it loses its power. Every rule he wrote is a way to transmute fear into awareness, to transform hesitation into movement. He was not a man without fear. He was a man who walked with it until it bowed before him. So the question is, will you continue to be a servant to your fears, or will you step onto the path Musashi carved with his life and his silence? Because the path still exists. It waits for you right now in this breath, in this moment of courage. Train your mind. Master yourself. Walk the dojo path.